Welcome back to Bluebelly Acres. Today we have a special guest, Logan. You've actually met him before. He is inspiring young chicken whisperer. He does an amazing job with taking care of our chickens. And we had talked the other day about possibly learning a little bit about foraging, learning about plants, medicinal plants, that kind of stuff. So I actually wanted to start up here. We're actually up in our outside of our livestock area. But we have a perfect example of what could be good and kind of dangerous. So if we can get a close-up here, Logan, I want to introduce you to this plant right here. Now, you will notice that it has these purple flowers, right? And you notice how it has kind of a very interesting looking shape, right? Mm-hmm. So these over here look kind of similar, but they're not. Notice how the leaves are very different. So these are kind of long and these are kind of short, right? So you don't want to confuse these two. But this one here is what they call self-healer. Now, self-healer is a great plant for aiding in, like, if you get cut, that kind of stuff. So we're actually going to harvest some of this, and we're actually going to harvest two other plants that I'll introduce you to here in a minute, as soon as I can find some. And we're going to turn it into a salve in case we get hurt, okay? So self-healer is going to help us as far as, what do you think it would do? It's called self-healer. What do you think it's going to help with? There you go. Well, that's very good. So we have some here. And like I said, we want to stay away from the ones that don't have the purple flowers, because identification of plants is incredibly important. If you get the wrong thing, notice how this one looks very similar. These look very similar. And I'm not positive on what these are, but I believe that those are actually not a good plant. Those would be more poisonous. So if we're taking this one, we definitely want to make for sure that we stay away from this one, okay? Mm-hmm. So this one, the easy way of identifying it is they have very weird looking but beautiful purple flowers there. Notice that? Mm-hmm. And it's typically going to have, again, the barrel shape. So we want to take that, and we don't want to normally take the whole plant, because a lot of these are typically perennial, which, you know what perennial means? So perennial would mean that it comes back every year, whereas an annual, and I could have that backwards, but I think an annual is only going to grow once and then it dies off and then it doesn't come back. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pick some of these. I'm gonna, so I don't have my knife with me. Hell yeah. So we have one here. Notice back over in here we have more. You want to hang on to that? Pulled that whole thing out. That was not supposed to happen, but we have plenty of it around here, so that's good. So we'll take that one, we'll leave that one there. So this is going to be the next plant that we're going to get for our salve, and this is called goldenrod. Okay, it's called solidalgo. Not that you're going to remember that, but you're going to remember goldenrod because of the yellow flowers, right? So now you have to be careful when you're harvesting goldenrod, because this is a late season pollinator, right? So you can get bees on it and whatnot. But a few of the things that you're going to pay attention to, because you want to make sure that you get goldenrod and not ragweed, which looks very similar to it at certain times. But this is good between July and November, okay? This plant is good if we dehydrate it in a tea. In fact, interesting little fact for you. Have you ever heard of the Boston Tea Party? Okay, so when we got rid of all the tea to kind of thumb our nose in England's face, they actually used this as tea, and it was called Liberty Tea. Kind of interesting, huh? So, you like tea? It's okay. Okay, so some things that I want you to look for on these is notice that the leaves are not directly across from each other, right? So if you look at the leaves, you got one here, one down there, one down there, one down here. So notice how they're staggered like that. So that's going to be important. At certain times they're going to be fuzzy, but the leaves are, feel that leaf right there. That's how it almost feels like sandpaper, like real fine grit sandpaper. So the other thing is that it's going to have a pyramidal shaped flower, right? So a lot of people mistakenly think, actually speaking of pollinators, you can see the ladybug right there. Well, it just fell off. But anyway, a lot of people think that this, when this blooms, this is what gives us seasonal allergies. And this actually isn't, because the only way that this is pollinated is from insects, whereas ragweed is pollinated from the wind. So that's what the pollen gets stirred up in the wind and gives us seasonal allergies. So we're going to be harvesting more of this, and we have a few different areas. You notice that there's like 6 plants here, all right? So again, we don't want to take all of it, but we're going to break it off here, right? One actually snaps better, which is good because I forgot my knife. Okay, and you can keep this. You're going to want to cut it up if you're going to turn it, dehydrate it, or turn it into tea. An inchworm. So throw him over there. I'm sure he'll find something else to eat. So the leaves, you can pull these off really easy. You just pinch it. There you go. Okay, you want to try that? So just pinch it off there. Let's get a single stop. Let's pinch this one off here. Yeah. Okay. And then just pinch right below. There you go. And then now we can dehydrate these. We can use these as a salve. These are good for urinary tract infections, which hopefully you don't have any, but it's also good for colds. For a salve, it's good for antibacterial. And so we're going to mix this with the self-filler that we already got, and that'll be good in our salve in case we get a cut or something. Okay. All right. So one of the things with goldenrod is that it oftentimes will grow in fields. Now you'll notice behind me, we move this plant out of the way, there's actually quite a bit of goldenrod back in here. But if you watched our previous video, if you haven't, link is up here. But if you watched our previous video, I'm doing exactly what I said don't do, which is go out foraging without your tools. I forgot my knife, I forgot my bag, so, and I don't have my snake guards. So I don't think that the snakes are going to be active right now, but I kind of want to stay out of that until we can come back later. And there's plenty of goldenrod actually out where it's easy to get to. Okay, so we've come to our last plant, and this could be plantain. Now plantain is one of my favorite plants, okay, because this actually really, like if you have a sting or a bite of some type, this will actually numb it. Okay, if you have a toothache, you can chew on this and it'll numb that. Some people get grossed out, and if you need to, then you just like kind of keep on folding it over in your hand. Just call it poultice, right? So, but what you're wanting to look for is on your leaf, you want to have these strong veins through here, right? And then this, since this is broadleaf, this during the summer is actually what you're looking for, and these are all seeds, right? Now, plantain actually grows pretty prolifically everywhere. Like this is actually called, the Indians used to call it white man's foot. And the reason why they call it white man's foot was because pretty much everywhere you have disturbed ground, this stuff will grow. Now, if you want to pan over, you'll notice that we're right by our driveway. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of disturbed ground here, right? So, but all of this is plantain. This is, we can just throw this back down. Now, we have some narrow leaf, but you want to make for sure, like the narrow leaf, I can show that, but narrow leaf is real long and narrow, and it's going to be hard to spot in the middle, late fall like we are, because these parts are not here. But do you see the plantain here? You see some over there? There's some over here as well. And you'll notice this stuff goes everywhere. A lot of people consider this a weed, but this is really good. And we're actually going to be putting this in a salve. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and harvest some of that. All All right, so I want to point out something here. If you look at this, this kind of almost looks like it. Again, late season, you don't have the shoot sticking out on a lot of them, just like this one here. Notice there's no shoot sticking out of that, but that is actually what we're looking for. Notice how the veins run all the way down, all the way down, and has a smooth edge. However, this one, I'm going to pull this. Notice how the veins do not run all the way down. They just run to the stem. And also notice how the edges of the leaf are kind of jagged, whereas the plantain is nice and smooth. So we don't want that. Okay, so we're kind of going to wrap this up. We have been out in the field. We've actually gathered some of the plants that we're going to use in our salve. There's a bunch of videos out about how to make the salve, so I don't know if it's going to be in this video, and if it is, then I'll actually cut that out. But basically for salves, all you're going to do is you're going to take all of your plants, you want to dry them out, you want to make sure that there's no water on them, and you want to stick them in oil completely submerged, and you want to leave them in there for about 6 to 8 weeks. Okay? And then all those medicinal things are going to go into oil, and then for salve, you take the oil and beeswax and you mix them together, and then it'll create the salve, almost like a lip balm. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, you've learned about 3 plants. Do you remember what they were called?
Goldenrod.
Yep.
Plantain.
Yep.
And broadleaf.
The self-filler.
Yep.
Okay. So what is something that stands out from what you learned today that you think that you would remember?
Certain plants help with certain problems that you have, such as bee stings. You can chew the plantain.
There you go.
And put it on there, and yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have done our harvest, and hopefully people at home are learning some stuff from them. And what do you think that they should do?
Like and subscribe.
There you go. That's my boy. All right.